Well, it's a big day for me. I finally got a couple of accessories to attach to my new dust collector. And there's only two of them that I've picked up. One of them is a remote switch, and the other one is a dust sentry that's going to measure the level of dust in my barrel. I'm really excited about that. Let's start off quickly, just for a couple of minutes, to talk about the remote switch. So there's the switch box that I'm using from a company called iVac, and they do quite a variety. I'll brief you a little bit on some of the stuff that they do. In my case, this is just a remote switch. I have a switch over by the table saw I'm going to show you in a minute, but it's very simple. You can see down here it's plugged, the box is actually plugged into the wall, and that's where it gets its power source from. And this is the lead that goes to my dust collector, and that's right here. And basically what happens remotely, I can turn this switch on in here, and that's what activates the dust collector. But let me show you the switch for a second. So this is my off-on switch, and it doesn't do anything except on and off. But when it sends a command to the box that I just showed you, what happens, you can set up, there's little dip switches in that box where you can set up delays. For example, when I hit the on button, it waits for about 5 seconds before it turns the dust collector on. That gives me time to put on my hearing and my eye protection, and then the dust collector cuts in. I've also set it up so that when I hit the off button, the dust collector runs for about 20 or 30 seconds more, and that's to clear out the hose and whatever sort of dust is in the machine. And that way I make sure that I keep a nice clean pathway for the dust to get into the collector. So there's all sorts of different controls and things that you can set this up, different systems and different switches, all sorts of things. So it's a pretty complete system. I'll put a link in the description box if you want to ever go and have a look at something like this. And this is not a paid promotion for them. This is just some public service information for those who are setting up dust collectors. The next thing I want to show you, this is going to be the fun part of this video for sure, something called a dust sentry. And what it is, for those of us who have barrels that you can't look into, or you need a porthole or some way of looking into. In other words, there's not a clear bag that you can look over and see how much dust is in it. This is a thing that can tell you how much dust and chips are in your dust collector, and I'm going to show you how this works. So this is really cool, and I'm going to take a few minutes and show you how to set this up. So here's all of the parts that come in. There's a few gaskets and so on. We'll get to that in a few minutes. So this is a strobe light, and there's also a little sensor here, and that sensor is what we'll be inserting into the barrel to detect the dust. But I want to show you how this works. So I'm going to take this and plug this into my 110 outlet, and you'll notice that, oh, it's going off right away. But if I put that like that, now I'm pointing this sensor over to the wall, and as I move this closer to the wall, you're going to notice that the light's going to start coming on. There it is there. So right now it looks like it's set up to about 2 feet, and I want to reset this to about 6 inches. So let me show you over at the dust collector why I want to do that. Okay, so there's the barrel where all my dust and chips collect, and what I'm going to do over here, which is sort of towards the back of my barrel here, I'm going to put that little sensor right in there. Now, the only way you can see what you've got for dust in there right now, and it looks like I'm in this one about half full, is because you can see all the dust that collects on there, and that's just pretty normal. That's static electricity, and it sort of attracts a bit of dust there. But you know, if you put a flashlight up to it, you can see what's going on in there, and that's fine, except that when you're planing, you know, you've got a big job and you're planing away, you don't always think to come running over here with a flashlight and look in there. So the dust sentry is perfect, because when you set it up in there, and as you're planing away, all of a sudden you might, in sort of at the corner of your eye or wherever you've got this set up, all of a sudden the strobe goes off, and that tells you that you've reached the maximum where you want to set the amount of dust and chips that they're collecting in your barrel. So you can see that I would want to go about here, and I'm going to measure that with a a ruler and just see what that exactly what that distance is. It looks to me like it's about 6 inches. So there's the sensor, and there's the little dial, and you can see there's a place where you can put a little screwdriver in and turn it like that. But again, I don't know where the range is. This is probably the widest range, and this is probably the narrowest down here. So I'm going to put this in the little jig that I've got here and turn everything on and start dialing down until that sensor goes out. Then hopefully I'll be able to move that jig down onto my work surface here so that I can get down to 5 or 6 inches. So okay, and I've got that reset again. Now I've got this is about 8 inches here, and I'm going to try and go down to about 6. So I need to turn this off first of all. There it is there, and see where that comes back on again. Okay. All right, that will work fine. All right, I'm going to go with that. The next thing I need to do now is drill a hole in the top of the barrel. So they give you a couple of mounting options. There is this one where you get a screw that screws into the bottom of that sensor, and there's a rubber seal and a washer, and you can see how they're sort of cut out to fit in that sensor. And then there's a friction fit, and the way this works is you can see there's this gasket here, there's a rim around it, and I guess that's so that you drill a hole, put this in, and then the sensor fits right in there. And what this is just a plug for some reason if you weren't going to use that or something, and that's what that's for. I'm going to go with the screw-in situation here, and that's going to require a step drill. So let me show you how that's going to go. Now, because I'm using the screw-in type of system to lock this in, I need to drop the barrel down because I need to do the screwing from the inside. And even though this barrel is not full, I'm going to just take the dust. It's pretty close to full anyway. So I'm just going to take this now and empty that out. And this is one of the features, this is one of the main reasons that I bought this system, was because now I don't have to do anything except lift that out and put that in the garbage just the way it is like that, and dispose of that, and I don't have to worry about dealing with any dust anywhere. And I just put a new bag in there, and it's all ready to go. Now the next thing I'm going to use is a step drill, and if you haven't seen a step drill, that's what they look like. And because I don't want to make a mess of this, I've actually taken this over to the sensor and I've marked sort of undersize where it is, and I think it looks like it's going to be the next one. So I'm going to drill down to the black line, and then I'll check the sensor, and then I think I'll need to go one more up to get a good snug fit there. So pretty simple from here on in. I'm almost down to that black mark now. And the rubber washer underneath, and then that will help hold that down, and from underneath I can screw that together. And I'm just going to do that finger tight. That's a nice snug fit. Now before I put everything back together, I just want to check this, because when I plug this in, that sensor should not be working. Okay, that's good. Oh, that's a bit tight. I think I'll have to readjust that a little bit. That's better. There's about 6 inches. Maybe I must have moved that. Okay, that's good. That's all ready to go. All I need to do now is put a plastic bag back in here and slide everything under. Well, there we go. You can see I've got my strobe mounted pretty high up here, and I can't really show you it working because I don't have any dust in the bin. But maybe if I think of it, next time I have a full bin, we'll get to look at that strobe light. But we've seen it working today, so everything's all set up, ready to go. Well, that concludes my video for today. And you know, I'm kind of relieved now that I have that extra level of monitoring of the dust in the barrel under my dust collector, because what happens when it builds up too far, it backs up into the filter, and I don't want to have to be cleaning that filter out. And I don't always think about running over with my flashlight to look in the little porthole. So I can still look in the porthole and see sort of where the dust is at, but when it gets to sort of a critical level, now the strobe will go off and I can be assured that it's not backing up into the filter, so that I don't have extra work cleaning out the filter. If you missed the installation of the dust collector, I'll put that link up here for those of you who haven't seen that, and then that sort of rounds the circle of all of the bits and pieces for that. I'm Colin Canet for Woodwork Web. Thanks for watching.